Hello and welcome. This is Nick from the Fire and Flint podcast. Survivor season 44, recap and review for episode 11. What an episode was this one. This may be my favorite. I am your host today. I'm the only one here again, okay? My panel is a little bit busy right now, okay? A lot of stuff going on. But episode 11, the I'm Not Worthy episode, okay? This episode to me was one of my favorite episodes of the entire season. Season 44, before we even get started, season 44 has been a phenomenal season altogether, in my opinion. I've kind of walked away from Survivor for a few years. I have, my favorite episodes, favorite seasons. But this season so far has been very entertaining. And I hear New Era. I haven't really watched any of the New Era Survivor. I only watched the old era. But I'm very pleased with what I've seen this season. And that's just me. I know a lot of people are going to hate on it, but I really like it. And, the characters. Let's just start with who's there for this episode. You got Carolyn, who's been absolutely phenomenal. Okay, I'm not going to give any spoilers yet for anybody, so I'm just going to go right down the list. So Carolyn, she's been great. So Carolyn, if you're watching this video, just understand you're one of the most entertaining players, characters, castaways I've ever seen, and I think you should absolutely be on again, no matter what happens on this episode or going forward if you make it going forward, all right? And I'll recap all that at the end. Lauren's been very good too. I mean, she's done some pretty cool things so far, and we got to hear a little bit about her story. I think it was last episode. Jam, okay, another part of the Tika 3. Boy, do I love Jam. Carolyn, man, they have been fun to watch. Another entertaining character. He goes out and he's having a good time and he's talking about his story and everything that he's done. Jam, if you're watching this video, you've been phenomenal. I think you should be on again because you've done a phenomenal job. Jamie is just all smiles. She's, fun to be around. You can tell she's having a good time, and she's just a very positive person. So if you're playing with her, she's not one of those moody people, okay? Some of these other people are a little bit moody, but Jamie's never gonna be moody. She's just having a good time. Danny is full speed ahead. 100% I'm going forward, and there's no questions about that. Okay, this guy's going to be looking for idols every single day. This guy's going to be full throttle on challenges, full throttle, and anything that he disagrees with is illogical, okay, in his brain. And that can be a positive or a negative, but there's positives and negatives there. Then you got Heidi. Heidi is a strong individual woman. She is very, very strong. She does what she thinks is best for her game, and I absolutely respect that. Not only that, she's had advantages and idols and all kinds of stuff. So she has been a really strong player. And last but not least, Carson. The final piece of the Tika 3. Carson, you've been one of my favorites since day one. I'm still rooting for you, kid. Keep it up, okay? He's been phenomenal. One of the best puzzle players I think I've ever seen. Not only is he good at puzzles, he's good in his social game, right? Sometimes I feel like he plays a little bit too lenient, too conservative, I'm the middle guy. But for the most part, Carson, you've been playing phenomenal, and you're doing exactly what's going to get you to the end. Now, whether or not you can win it is a different story. I don't know if you made it, a huge, huge case. But for being 20 years old and doing what you're doing, you've been doing a great job. And last but not least, I want to mention, too, is that, you are one of the youngest players ever. And not only that, one of maybe in my opinion, probably I shouldn't say the best puzzle players ever. But also, you mentioned how you practice in your bathtub for this challenge. So we'll get going forward after that. So we'll talk about the challenge. So ultimately, we come back in this episode, okay? We come back for this episode with Carolyn being a mess. She's very upset that Carson and Jam decided to, ultimately vote out Franny without telling her. And again, Carolyn's been getting screwed all season, whether it's been the Bro Squad, when they didn't tell her, what was going to go on. And honestly, every single time I feel like Carolyn's in there, no one's ever talking to her. People just kind of ignore her and they don't fill her in. And again, her two biggest allies, Carson and Jam, decide not to tell her. Whether or not this is a good move or not, we'll have to look forward. But again, the two most trusted allies of Carolyn, the two people that she felt like she could trust, decided to do this without her. So now she's all upset and she's making a big scene. And ultimately, Danny, Heidi, and Jamie are all saying and Lauren are all saying that, we got to take down Tika. Tika started at 3, and now look, now we're down to the final 7, and they're still here. They're still here. They were getting blown up with Bruce going down in the beginning and then Maddie going down. Tika's been falling apart slowly, but yet they're still battling. They're still in the game. That was a 3v4. Danny says this is the last chance. Let's get Tika out. If we don't get Tika out now, they're going to run the table. Now, whether or not they do, that's a different story, but let's continue. Jamie goes, starts doing her meditation and the yoga stuff. They're all doing it together that morning. Carolyn's fresh now. She's one day through now. She's finally understanding, I got to move on from the Franny thing. They start talking about the crab. Jam Jam found this thing. Carolyn says that she's one with the lobster. She starts to go, in the water together with Jam Jam, and she's just saying how much she truly loves Jam Jam. She likes Jam Jam a lot. Carolyn goes out and says basically that, there needs to be a final three, and they start talking about the final three, her and Jam Jam. And they say that, I think that she kind of wants, from what I was getting at it, her, Carson, and Jam Jam. That's the final three she wants. She wants to take it three to be the final three and let the best player win. And I absolutely agree with that. I feel like that would be the best three players. You can throw Danny in there too. Danny's another one. Make it 4 players right now that played very good. Heidi's a very close 5th. And Lauren right now is my 6th, okay? And Jamie is my 7th, okay? So right now in order, in my opinion, before this episode, it probably goes, it's a toss-up. Me personally, I think Carolyn, then it goes Jam Jam, then Carson. Then after Carson, I feel like it goes Danny. And I feel like you can throw Danny up there. Danny could be in the top 2 conversation, to be honest with you. Maybe top 3, over Carson. But, then Danny. Then after Danny, I got Heidi. Heidi goes to Lauren. Lauren goes to Jamie. Okay, ultimately, that's my top final 7. That's who I think can win the game 1 through 7 right now, who I feel are the strongest candidates to the least strongest candidates. Carolyn being number 1, Jamie being number 7. Ultimately, Jam Jam and Carolyn are just saying how mainly that they're willing to work together. Jam Jam, he's asking, who has the Tika Birdcage idol, and no one's admitting that they have it, although we do know that Carolyn does have it. Danny begins to say to Heidi and to Lauren and to Jamie that we must vote out Atika. And they say Carson or Jam Jam. Okay, Carson or Jam Jam. Those are the 2 that we should probably target. Now, why does Danny say this? I feel like Danny targets the physical players, the ones that can win challenges all the time. He's been like this for quite some time now. He doesn't really factor in the strategy gameplay, right, that Carolyn may be bringing to the table. So he's saying Jam Jam and Carson are the 2 biggest threats, and he also believes that Carson can win, in the final 3 because he's very likable, and he thinks the same thing with Jam Jam. So ultimately, they all talk about the thing, and right now, Jamie and Lauren are talking to one another saying, what's the best move for us? What can we do to further our game? Ultimately, as me and Tony stated in the last episode, it's a 4v3 right now. If all 4 vote out 1, they're done unless an idol gets used. If all 3 stick together and vote out 1, and 1 flops in any way, shape, or form, or they can't split a vote, because if they try to split a vote 2 and 2, 3 beats 2 and 2. So they got to vote all together. At least 3 of them got to vote together, and they got to make sure that that 1 is an outlier and doesn't vote for one of them. But ultimately, they go to the challenge. An immunity challenge is a classic tide cage challenge. They're going to be underwater, okay? Underwater, okay? And the tide's going to slowly rise. And they got to make sure that they keep their head above water so they can breathe. Some of them will do tunnels, funnels and snorkels, I guess you can call it, right? Trying to breathe through their hand because, again, as the water rises, right, they got to make sure that they have room to breathe. So they're going to try to put their hand and make a funnel so that they can breathe through. Okay, it's an interesting decision here. Something that could get them further. So ultimately, they start, okay, and they all go under. And to start off the challenge, following the challenge with Jam Jam and all of them underneath, they got to decide on who's ultimately gonna get this done. Okay, so here they go. They're all underneath, and as soon as they start, Carson says that I practiced this challenge in my bathtub. How funny is that? Again, it's interesting. This kid is really trying. He really did. And Carson, if you're watching, man, I congratulate you. You've been phenomenal. You've absolutely been phenomenal. And again, I would love to talk to all of you guys after the show airs if it's possible. Right away, Lauren shows signs that she's struggling because she's shivering. Jeff asks her a question. She can't spit it out. You can just tell that she's already cold. A little bit longer before the tide even really rises that much. She's the first one out. Next to drop was Jamie, then Carson, then Carolyn. Okay, leaving Danny, Heidi, and Jam Jam. Now, who do you think's going to win? Let me know before, you find out from me if you haven't watched it. Or if you didn't, congratulations. Let me know what you think. Ultimately, it comes down to, Danny struggles, leg goes up and over the cage and everything, right? Ultimately, he comes out. Now it's down to Heidi and Jam Jam, and Jam Jam ultimately pulls it off, being, winning the immunity challenge. Congrats to Jam Jam. Jam Jam, this is only going to punch your ticket further into possibly being the sole survivor of season 44. You've done a phenomenal job. So following the challenge, with Jam Jam now off the table, Danny, Jamie, Heidi, and Lauren are going to now try to figure out who they're going to place their votes on. And clearly it's between Carson or Carolyn. So now the votes start to change from Jam Jam to Carson. The four of them start to begin, and they're set on voting out Carson. Carolyn starts to feel a little bit itchy. She feels like they're lying to her. Not Tika, Danny. She feels like they're saying, because Danny goes up and tells her, yeah, vote out Lauren and Jamie, But in reality, they're voting out Carson. And Carolyn feels this. She feels this happening. She goes back to her tribe and says, I feel weird about this. She goes back and says, Jam Jam, I need you to trust me. We need our numbers. You have to promise me you're going to vote Danny. And Jam Jam said, yes, I'll do that. But you saying if it comes down to it, let it be Carson. And she said, we cannot lose Carson. Carolyn then goes to Carson, and she tells him that she thinks he's in danger. And, Carson right away believes, what the heck? This is the first time the entire game I've been in danger. So now his wheels start to spin. So he goes up to Jamie and Lauren and says, I think it was Jamie and Lauren, and says, hey, I need you guys to work with me. Let's vote out. I think he said Lauren or Jamie or Danny or something. Let's work together, et cetera, et cetera. So he feels like he does a decent job trying to convince them. But Carolyn's still not feeling it. Carolyn and Jam Jam wanted to stop from getting paranoid on the fact that, they want to make sure that Danny doesn't have an idol. Now, there's no way to figure that out. They really feel like he has an idol. So long story short, Carolyn pulls out her idol and shows it to, I don't think she actually pulls it out, but she tells Carson that she has it and she's willing to play it on him. But she really makes it clear that she's nervous that she might have to play on herself or not use it, because what happens if one of them have an idol, play it, and then the votes go back on her and she gets voted out. So this is going to get crazy. At Tribal Council, Jeff focuses on what it means to be voting players out that will ultimately determine, how the jury is ultimately influenced. So he's basically saying that if you vote out these players, of course, you got to know the pieces that you're voting out. If you vote out this person here, right, they might give you a vote, but if you vote out this person here, they might not. So you kind of got to start to, piece some things together. Carolyn is anxiously thinking about the game all hours of the night, and she doesn't get much sleep. And then Jeff basically says, Carolyn, after she's already been kind of pissed off at Danny, she says, Jeff says, you should probably get some sleep. And she just looks at him like, and Jeff's like, are you mad at me now? And she's like, yes. So you see, Carolyn is emotional. And I love that Carolyn is emotional because she's just playing how she needs to play. Look, it is, to me, there's emotional, there's strategical, right? And I'm not saying either one's right or wrong. I know in theory, strategical is better than emotional. But man, sometimes you gotta play with your gut. And your gut's not strategic. Your gut is emotion. That's the truth. So you can disagree with me all you want, you Survivor people that are watching this. Like, if you're a big Survivor guy, you can disagree. I don't really care. To me, you got to play with your gut sometimes, your instincts. What do you think's going to happen? Play with your gut. Do what you think is best for your game. Don't always say, oh, the numbers are this and the numbers are that. If I just get to the end, make the move, make the gutty decision at times. Ultimately, Jamie says that she's sure of the roles that people are playing in the vote. Jeff says that that's an interesting way to phrase it. Danny said that, he agrees that, it's gonna basically be, he believes that people that want the same thing that he wants are gonna vote the way that he's going to vote. That really didn't make no sense to me. Ultimately, here comes the votes. Okay? And everyone begins to, get up and make this vote that's going to have a huge impact on the game. Carson does mention, before they go to the vote, though, they do mention to Carson how phenomenal he's been so far for being as young as he is. He mentions all of his accolades that he's done. And this is really Carson's moment to be like, hey, you might be getting voted off because, give your moment here. Here's your moment. Say what you got to say. Which he rambled on about everything that he did and how he's embracing his quirkiness. And again, Carson's been phenomenal. I want to continue to stress that. I feel like he's one of the better players we've seen in a pretty long time here. So anyway, that's that. Now let's get forward here. So, they get there and they start voting one by one. Carolyn's the last one to vote. She's out there using her fingers, 2 here, 2 here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 2, 2, moving her fingers around. She writes something down, crosses it off, writes something else back down, boom. Jeff then comes back and asks, if anyone wants to play an advantage or an idol, now would be the time to do so. All right, I'll read the votes. Jeff, who is it? Guess now. Carolyn. I will be playing my vote. I will be playing my immunity idol on Carson. This is a hidden immunity idol. Any votes cast on Carson will not count. I'll read the votes. Here we go. Carson, 1 vote. Carson doesn't count. Carson, 2 votes. Carson doesn't count. Danny, 1 vote. Danny, 2 votes. Danny. Heidi, 2 votes. Danny, 1 vote. Heidi. Both votes are Carson are canceled out. Heidi, 2 votes. Danny, 2 votes. Heidi, 1 vote left. Danny, please bring me up your torch. Now Danny goes up, says, come on, De Niro face, De Niro face, come on, De Niro face me. Come on, De Niro face me. I don't even know. I can't do the De Niro face. But he's saying the De Niro face. He promised his friends at home that if he gets voted out, you do the De Niro face. So come on, Jeff, De Niro face. One of the weirdest things I've ever seen. Jeff's like, Danny, the tribe has spoken. And Jeff was trying to, I think, hold himself back from laughing because Danny's De Niro face was very interesting. So ultimately, he gets voted out. Whew. Wow. 3 Tika, Heidi, Lauren, Jamie. My thoughts. It's interesting, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. I like the Tika 3. You've been hearing me say Tika 3. If you've been watching the series the entire time, I think the Tika 3 have the best chance of winning this thing. After the Tika 3, I feel like it's Heidi. Lauren, Jamie right now are still on my outskirts. I feel like they took away another big piece. There are, from the previews from our next episode, we did see that maybe Tika will be splitting up, and we thought maybe we see that this episode, but it hasn't happened yet. So will they split up? Will Carson, and again, I know everyone's saying, Carolyn's idol doesn't worth anything. He wouldn't have got voted on anyway. She threw her own security net, her own safety blanket on her teammate. I don't care. You have to admire that if you're on the jury. You have to. If you're Carson, you may say to yourself, if you're Jam Jam, you may say, that truly didn't save me. That didn't save him. You just played it because you were anxious. Okay, that's a fair point. But she gave away her own safety net for you. So now look, if Carson stated that he's going to do what's best for numbers and he's going to do what's best for his game. But this is where the emotional part comes in. I'm a loyal person. Again, this is no knock for if he goes against her or anything. I mean, it is what it is. Your point of playing the game is to win. But me personally, and you guys, anyone that knows me, if you do something for me, I owe you. And I can't. It will be against my conscience to now vote you out or turn on you. If they do it, then that's fine. Then that gives me, but I don't think, if I'm Carson, I don't think I can make that move on Carolyn. Even though she truly didn't save you, she tried. She gave away her sense of security for you. Now, again, a good Survivor player is going to say, screw that. I'm going to do what's best for me. But man, I couldn't screw her over. I couldn't do it. There's no way I could do it. And Jam Jam, I know Jam Jam doesn't want to do it either, but man, I know it might be best for the game, but again, you got to understand this too. If they get rid of Carolyn right now, then the numbers wean a little bit. 3-3, you take down Carolyn. 3-2. They might just pluck away at the rest of Tika. Go final 3, Heidi, Jamie, Lauren. I'd be very disappointed if those were the final 3. So in my opinion, if I'm Tika, you got to stick together one more time. and you got to take out one of them. You got to hope that Heidi doesn't use her idol for one of them. Pluck one. Then if one of you three I would get down one more. Keep the weakest link, whoever you think that may be. So now you have one left. And now if you want to pluck one of you away, then you got the final three. You got two tough contenders with one non-tough contender, in my opinion. And now it's fair and it's honest. And again, you got to do a good job in challenges and do your stuff right. So to me, if I'm them, that's what I would leave it at straight. I would not do anything until you vote off the next two and you got one left. When you have that one left, then you may want to turn on each other and try to position yourself for the best in the game. But the best thing for me, I think the coolest thing ever will be seeing the final three Tika members all in the final three. And in my opinion, again, I think Carolyn has the best case. I think Jam Jam has the second best case. I got Carson with the third best case. I truly do. Let me know what you guys think. I would love to hear what your thoughts. I would love to have you guys on this podcast. If you want to come on, let me know. Again, hopefully I'll have my people back next week, or at least a person back next week. We'll talk about it. But again, I want to really stress this part here. I really want to see the final three being all Tikas, and I think that would be one of the best finishes we've ever seen, because I honestly don't know who would win. Let me know who you think's going to win. Which Tika member would win it if it comes down to Carolyn, Carson, and Jam Jam? Who would you send your vote into? Now, again, we're the fans. We get to see everything. The jury members don't, so big difference. We'll see you guys soon. If you got anything, let me know. This was episode 11 of the Fire and Flint podcast, season 44, recap and review of episode 11. See you guys soon. Peace. We are Bill Better.